logged by default. Spring Boot starter web app.log. Hello everyone, a very warm welcome to Think Constructive. I am Isha. In this session, I will be discussing how to do logging in Java Spring Boot applications. This session is going to be extremely useful for your production live projects as well as any demonstration project which you might be doing as a part of your curriculum. So stay connected. Watch the session till the end so that you are not going to miss upon on any of the important concepts. Alright, so let us quickly start with the discussion now. What do you think? Why do we need logging in our projects or in our applications? Normally, it makes developers' life easy, and for the support people, for someone who is monitoring the applications throughout in the production. Nowadays, so many tools are there, but finally, when tools will give the alarms or alert or it notifies something, people interventions might be needed. So their logging will be very, very helpful. Definitely, it helps people to read out the sequence or the flow of application, and also the tools which are monitoring the application health. Those tools also can read these kind of sequential events in the application. How is it performing? And if there is any problem, why the problem exists. Alright, so that's a quick overview of the logging, and that is where Spring Boot logging is very, very useful. So whatever Spring Boot project or applications you are building, their logging is one of the key requirement to have in any kind of project, whether it is a basic simple project or a live production application. So let's have a quick look on some of the key points. So Spring Boot standard logging is done using SLF4j, which is quite well-known library for logging. Then Spring Boot starter dependency have already included Spring Boot starter logging dependency. I will also show you this library while doing the demonstration. So wait for a couple of minutes and we will be starting with the demo. So there are certain log levels: info, warn, and error. So these three are the default logging levels. So once you enable logging in your application, in your project, info, warning, and error messages will be logged by default. Which will not be logged by default is debug and trace. So if you want debug level logging or trace level logging, that you have to explicitly enable via your application.properties file or your application.yaml file. Okay, now let us first understand the standard logging with the help of SLF4j, which comes along with the Spring Boot starter framework. So I will open IntelliJ IDEA editor, and I've already created a basic REST project for the demonstration of Spring Boot logging. I also want to inform you that in case you are looking forward to learn Java Spring Boot REST API and other stuffs in detail, there are more sessions available on this channel and details are getting displayed on your screens right now. I have also tagged these sessions in the above card section as well as in the description box below. So I'll just quickly tell you what I have done. So this is the main class for Spring Boot, and this is my employee class, which is essentially a REST controller, and it is having a get API. So /employee is exposed and it will expect some employee ID, but in any case it will be returning a fixed response employee exists. Alright, so this is the basic thing I have done. I will quickly show you the pom.xml also. So I'll show you what all dependencies exist. So you can see the Java version 17 and dependency, essentially just one dependency, Spring Boot starter web, which is needed in order to create any REST application using Spring Boot. So it is web starter dependency, and along with this Spring Boot starter test dependency is there. Alright. Going down, you can see no other dependencies are given. Fine, so just a Spring Boot starter dependency is there. And now let us explore this package Spring Boot starter web, what exists inside. So I am now in Spring Boot starter web, and here I will go down and we'll see Spring Boot starter. So this is the core starter dependency of Spring Boot. Let us go inside this, and now here inside this, let us try to find out logging. So you can see Spring Boot starter logging is already there. And if we explore this, inside this, you can see what all is there. Logback, slf4j. See, all those dependencies which are needed for logging the stuffs are already there. That is the reason precisely I did not include any explicit dependency in my pom.xml. Alright, now let us move forward. Coming back to this employee REST controller, let us bring up our application first and see what is happening, and then we'll go ahead and do the standard logging stuffs here. Alright, I'll just quickly bring up the application. So here you can see Tomcat started on port 8080. So my application is up and running. Fine, I did not change any specific server port or anything. So by default, it is starting on port 8080. I will now open the browser window and will try to see whether my application is up and running and what is happening inside. So I will just say localhost 8080 /employee/1 because that's how I've written my get API. So inside this, I'm just getting the response employee exists. Let us go back to IntelliJ IDEA editor and see what is happening. So simple, no specific logging, just the default logging of Spring Boot is happening. All right, now I want to do some logging stuffs which I would like to see in my console. So what do? I'll just terminate the application. Okay, and so here in my employee class, what do? I will just say private static final, and I will use logger, okay, which comes from slf4j, and let's say I call it as log info, okay, and we'll use logger factory, which is already provided by slf4j. So you can see directly I'm using slf4j stars, okay, and I will just say get logger, and here I need to pass a class name where I want to enable the logging. So what do? I will just pass my employee class, okay, that's it. With this one line, logging is enabled for employee class. All right, so now let us write some specific message inside get employee. So let's do some logging here in my get employee API. So I will first do info logging, which is the default one. So I just need to write whatever log message I would want to write and should get printed on the screen. Okay, so I will just say employee info logging is enabled. All right, fine, save. Now let us again bring up my application and see whether we can get this log in my console window here or not. Okay, so my application is up and running. I will go back to browser window. I will refresh this. This output will be as is because I have not done any changes for that. I'll just check my console window and we'll see whether logging is happening or not. So you can notice for this employee class, employee info logging is enabled. This is what I wanted to do, right? Cool. Now let us do some debug logging also. So let me just terminate the application. Okay, I will now do some debug logging for this class and see what happens. Employee employee debug logging is enabled. Let's say I put it right. Okay, so if this works fine, I should be able to see this message. Okay, let us bring up the application. My application is up and running. Okay, let us go back to browser window. I'll refresh it once. Okay, I'll come back to IntelliJ and let me see how many logs are happening. Employee info logging is enabled, I am still getting, but debug logging is enabled, I am unable to get. Okay, so let us understand why am I not getting it, and then we'll see how should we get it. Okay, so login for debug employee debug logging is enabled. This is fine, but if you remember, we discussed info, error and warn are the default logging. Okay, so for that only this much is enough. But if I would want debug and trace level logs, I should enable them explicitly. These two, debug and trace, doesn't come by default. Okay, so now let us terminate the application and do some settings so that we should be able to see the debug logs also. Okay, so inside resources, I'll just create application.yaml file. As you must be knowing, application.yaml or application.properties file are there in a Spring Boot application for configuration purposes. Alright, so all I need to do inside this application.yaml, logging, level, and here I should be writing my specific package name where I want to enable this debug log. Okay, so I will just copy the package name com.thinkconstructive.springboot-logging and I will paste this. And I will paste it here. Okay, so it is doing some auto formatting. It should take it like this. Okay, so entire package name I should be giving like this. Here I should write debug. Okay, I'll save the application and I will again bring up the application and let us see what happens. So my application is up and running. Okay, and I will go back to browser window. I will refresh it. Okay, and again coming back to IntelliJ IDEA editor and let us see what is happening now. So you can notice employee info logging is enabled as well as employee debug logging is also enabled message I am getting. Alright, that's how you should be enabling the logging for the non-default things such as debug or trace levels. Okay, let me just terminate the application and let me just show you one more stuff. If I want to enable debug or trace for the entire application, entire complete Spring Boot application, including Spring Boot inbuilt libraries, whatever Spring Boot is doing by itself also, then what I could do, I will just say root and let's say this time I want to enable debug for the complete application. Okay, let me just save and bring up the application again, and this time here you can see so many logs are there with debug, because what it is doing, it is also logging the Spring Boot library debug stuffs also. So you can see all these things we have not logged, but it is logged from the Spring Boot framework itself because we have switched on debug at the root level itself. So I'll just go back to browser window, we'll refresh it. Okay, and let us see what is happening. So many debug logs are already there from the Spring Boot library. I'll go up and try to find out my log also. So it's like employee debug logging is enabled. Alright, so generally it's not a very good idea to switch on logging, specifically debug and trace level logging at the root level, because too many information also becomes very confusing sometimes. Alright, so be specific with the packages for which you really want to enable debug or trace level logging. Alright, so that will be good thing. So this is about SLF4J standard logging. Now let us move to logback. So there are scenarios when only application.yaml or properties file configuration is not sufficient for logging, and there are many more things which are required. Let's say destination should be the file or email or databases or some more different configurations are required. So those kind of so many permutation combinations are supported by logback. And this also comes inbuilt with Spring Starter libraries. Alright, so no need to include any specific dependencies or anything. We just need to understand the logback configuration and we should be good to go. Also, I would like to show you logback website. So I will just open the logback website so that you know where to refer logback documentation and detailed stuffs. So logback.qos.ch is a logback website and they have done a beautiful documentation for logback. So generally logback is called as a successor of log4j project, which was a very successful project. So it's a successor of that, and that is where sometimes in the libraries you can see the references of log4j also. And here is the documentation of logback. So you can refer this documentation for the many more stuff and configuration and for more understanding. Alright, so now let us go back again to IntelliJ IDE editor, and here I will show you how to do configuration of logback and will show you some stuffs for that. So now I will just comment out this application.yaml changes. Okay. And here in resources, I will add a new file called logback.xml. Alright. I will paste logback.xml contents here, which I have already kept ready just to save everyone's time. So I will just quickly paste the contents here. Okay. So here is my logback.xml. I will just explain you some stuffs here. So initially I'm including logback default.xml, which comes along with the logback dependency. Inside this I'm including two properties called console log pattern and console log charset. This charset UTF-8 along with the pattern inclusion is mandatory because sometimes it doesn't detect already inherited charset and it starts giving you character undefined issues. Alright, so it will be better if you include these two properties, otherwise you might land up in the undefined kind of issues. After that I have included console appender. Okay, so console appender will define the logging formats which will happen in the console. Whenever my application is up and running, by default console logging happens. So what should be the specific format for that? That is defined according to this console appender.xml. Alright, I will come back to this log file property. Okay, I will first explain you the console stuff. So here in the root level info I have given, so all the info logs will be done and appender reference is console here. Okay, so for console appender, what appender formats will be taken? Console appender.xml. So formats will be taken from this file and console logging will happen as per UTF-8 character set. Alright, and now the next step is file level logging. Okay, so for file level logging, what we have done? Another property. So these many things were there for console, and now for file level logging, log file, and the value I have given as log/app.log. Alright, so here you can see currently there is no directory called as log, but once I will bring up the application and file level logging starts, then here I should be able to see a new directory called log, and inside that app.log. What this app.log file will contain, whatever logging will happen will be logged inside app.log file also. Alright, just below this log file property, file appender is written. This complete block of appender is for file level logging. Alright, that's where the name is given as file. This is having the file level logging formats. Okay, and then below that it is having the policy. So it is having fixed window rolling policy, and file name pattern is log file dot %i, and where this %i will be the range of value between min index and max index. And one more thing, triggering policy is size based triggering policy, and the max file size we have given as 10 KB. That means as soon as file size becomes 10 KB, a new file will be automatically created with the given file name .%i, and this %i is a range between minimum and maximum index. Alright, so I hope this appender block is clear to everyone. Now going down, root level logging info is set, and appender reference console and file both are given. So both logging will be done. So that means logging will be done in the console window as we have seen earlier also, and the logs will be written in the file also. All right, just below that you can notice we have also given our com.thinkconstructive.springboot logging package, and we have set specifically for this package level as debug. All right, so what do we expect? Debug level logging should be done for the class existing in this package, and for everything else info level logging will be done. All right. So now let us quickly bring up the application and test. So now you can see the application is up and running. Okay. And this time, if you notice, console logging pattern is different from the default one. Now let us go back to the browser window and test the application. Now let us refresh it. That means one request is made. Coming back to IntelliJ IDE editor, and notice employee debug logging is enabled and employee info logging is enabled. Both the logs are getting printed in the console window. And if you notice, now we have got the log directory here in our project, and inside this we are seeing app.log, right? So this is the path and file name we have given here. So inside app.log, if I go and see, along with all other logs, I am able to see employee info logging and employee debug logging is enabled, both the logs. All right, now let us go back to browser window, and I will make couple of requests here so that my logging file, which is app.log, size reaches to 10 KB. This is what we have given, right? And as soon as that size reaches to 10 KB, a new log file should get created. So I'm just putting couple of requests here. I'm just not counting, just giving it so that my file size reaches. So you can see so many logs got printed in the file, but still my file size is not yet reached. So I will just do couple of more requests. Now coming back to IntelliJ IDE editor, you can see I have got app.log.1. That means my app.log file already reached to 10 KB. That is where a new file got created, and I am able to see all the logging getting printed in this new file. All right, so that's how you will be seeing automatically logging file gets created as soon as the file size reaches. All right, I hope this demonstration is very, very clear to everyone. Let's have a quick summary of what all we have covered in this session. So we discussed Spring Boot logging, followed by SLF4J demonstration, logback discussion and demonstration in detail, and testing all the stuffs. If you have any doubts, please ask your doubts in the comment section. I'll try to get back to you as soon as possible, and also tag the timeline which you like the most. All right. Thank you everyone for watching this session. I hope you found it useful and you are now able to implement logging in your Java Spring Boot projects. I also would like to tell you that there are many more Java Spring Boot REST API and microservices sessions available on this channel. So find out some time and explore those sessions. Those sessions are going to be really helpful for you as a Java Spring Boot microservices professionals and also as a Java Spring Boot microservices student. So stay connected. See you in the next session. Bye for now.